This is the last year that I have in my 20s, but this is also the year that I'm going to start building my dream life. In today's video, I'll be sculpting for 10 hours while reflecting on my 20s. I'll be comparing my mindset as an engineer to where I am now as a self-employed full-time artist. And I'm also going to be talking about the steps I'm going to take to start building the life that I want. When I was 16, I decided I wanted to be an engineer. And at the time, I thought engineering would provide job security while simultaneously fulfilling my desire to be a creative with problem solving. So for the next 7 years, I worked toward that goal, studying, pushing myself, and doing everything I thought I was supposed to do. Once I became an engineer, my mindset was focused on growing my career. I thought success meant becoming an engineering manager, and I believed that if I just kept following that path, I'd be happy. But then I got fired, and honestly, I was so scared. I spent almost a year looking for another job, thinking I just needed to get back on track. But rejection after rejection, I really started to question everything. That's when it hit me. I wasn't just looking for another job, I was looking for direction. And the real problem wasn't that I couldn't find the right job, it was that I had no idea who I was outside of being an engineer. So instead of forcing myself into another career that didn't feel right, I decided to slow down and figure out what I actually enjoyed. And that led me to creating my first disco ghosts. And ultimately, it's what brought me here, sculpting for 10 hours. At first, it felt pretty scary because I never thought that my art would be something that I could rely on to pay my bills. The more I did it, the more I realized I was engineering through art, creating and designing things from my own hands. It wasn't an easy transition. I struggled with doubt, financial stability, going from working a regular 9 to 5 to working for myself 24/7, but I kept reminding myself that at the end of the day, I was so much happier creating little moments of magic for myself and others, more than I ever was working as an engineer. My family and my friends were so supportive when I first started my Etsy shop, and honestly, if it weren't for their encouragement and continuous belief in me, I don't know if I would have made it this far. I celebrated my small wins, but more importantly, every time I failed, they were always there. Especially when I had such a tough year in 2024 when I thought about closing my shop. Now I'm in the process of building a life that actually feels fulfilling. To me, that means creating a lifestyle where I have financial independence as an artist and creator. A big inspiration for me on this topic is Tammy from Uncomfy Co. Her work and her story emphasizes that these two ideas are not mutually exclusive. Right now, I'm focusing on sharing my story, creating content to help others who may feel the same way that I do, and growing my art business. Some of the biggest challenges I'm facing are remaining consistent on the days when I'm not feeling my best, and being consistent financially with my shop. While this may seem like a dream life for many, for me, it's more than that. Working for yourself does come with many challenges. However, in the end, it brings me the most important thing, freedom over my life and how I run it. But my financial situation heavily depends on my consistency. Even with the challenges and the pressure I place on myself, I know I'm on the right path. If I could go back and give my younger self advice, I'd say not to take things in your work life so seriously. It's crazy to think that at one point I thought getting fired was the worst thing that could happen, but looking back, it was actually the wake-up call that I needed. Now, as I head into my 30s, I feel really excited about what's ahead and working towards the goals I set for myself. So if you're feeling stuck or lost, just remember, sometimes what feels like an ending is actually the beginning of something better. Okay, now that I got that off my chest, I feel so much better. If you have any questions or comments about anything about my transition from engineering to an artist, or getting fired, or starting over when you're in your 20s and talking about your dream life, let me know in the comments below, because I would love to expand on this and talk about this more with all of you, especially because I feel like this is something that weighs heavily on me, and I really want to put out how I feel, because I know that I am not the only one who had struggled with what I did. Again, if you have any questions or comments, let me know down below. And now we're going to go more into the kind of sculpting part of this video, because I had recorded like a bunch of audio and I also wanted to include that in here too. Also, if you have any questions about the work that I do, polymer clay or anything like that, let me know in the comments down below also, because I would love to talk about that. I kind of don't really know where to start when it comes to sharing information about polymer clay and things like that. So I kind of need some questions that I can answer. So yeah, let me know. And okay, enough yapping. We are moving on to the next part of this video. Okay, so I just realized I didn't film myself cutting this, so this is just part of the process where I am weighing the clay and cutting it out, and I also realized I didn't have the timer set. Okay, I'm gonna be honest a little bit, using a timer kind of stresses me out, so I don't know, it's just like a stopwatch just to see like how long things take me, but it's kind of giving me a bit of anxiety, so I don't know if I'm going to continue using the stopwatch, so we'll see how it goes. I'm not sure. Okay, so I just came back from a little break. It's been about an hour, and I didn't include the timing for the flowers. If I included that, it's probably like an extra 40 minutes, I'd say. So maybe like an hour and 40 minutes, but that's okay. We're just gonna go off of what I did here. And this took quite a while because there's 19 of them, and I made 7 of them some details work. So I'm going to be filming this process next. It's probably one of the most tedious. Actually, I take that back. I feel like doing the little details here, like in the eyes and the cheeks and stuff like that. And I feel like the stem is going to take quite a bit of time to make for all 19 of them. But we are going to continue on and see how long it takes. And then I'm not sure if I'm going to have time to clean them and fire them in the oven today. I'll see. It's 7:12 right now, so probably not. I like cleaning them during the daytime because the lighting is a little bit better, but we'll see how I feel. I might cook them tonight if I'm able to finish them. Okay, anyway, let's go ahead and move on. Okay friends, we're at the 2.5 hour mark. It's getting pretty late. It's almost 9, so I will probably be working through the night because I slept a little bit earlier in the day, and also because I'm in a little bit of pain. So like I said earlier, I do have to take breaks in between my working sessions. I try to do it like every hour or every hour and a half to 2 hours, and that's so that my hands don't like cramp up on me. I do hand stretches and stuff like that as well, but sometimes it isn't enough and I will have to sleep with braces on my arms. But anyway, so while this looks like you know, not that much work, it is quite strenuous on my hands, especially with the time I'm working doing it. So 2.5 hours before used to take me 4 hours, used to take me 6 hours, etc., right? You just get faster over time as you complete it, but that does not stop the pain in your hands. So I just want to make that very clear. And if you are planning on creating things like miniatures or even large sculptures, it's really important to give your hands a break. This is what is creating your art, and you know, you just want to take care of yourself as much as you can. So anyway, with that aside, I am going to be moving on after my break. So right now it's 8:54. I'm probably going to take like 30 minutes to an hour to rest my hands and do some stretches, and then I'm going to work on the stem portion, which is armature wire wrapped in clay. So I'm really excited about that. And then after that, we'll attach the flower and then clean and then fire them in the oven. Progress update, we are 3.5 hours in, and this is a progress so far. So I just have to add in the flowers over here. I'll probably have to adjust the stems for a few of them because I initially started by putting the stem and the flower at the same time, but then my fingers were cramping up pretty bad, so then I just moved over here, and it is about to be 11. It's 10:57, and then after that, I'm going to clean them all with isopropyl alcohol, and we'll see how long that takes. It usually takes me quite a long time. Cleaning them is probably one of the most difficult parts of the process, because I also sand them in case I miss anything, because I can't always pick up everything, especially when I'm cleaning them at night. So I do that also. And I just love how these turned out, how they're all like different, but I mean, they all look similar to the original. But I love that when you're making handmade items, everybody basically gets one of a kind, because none of them are the same, even though they all look pretty similar, which I'm super proud of, because I can consistently make them look similar to each other, but there's always these little details that differentiate each and every one of them. And I think that with handmade goods, that's probably one of the most appealing things to me, especially when I'm buying jewelry or things like that from other small businesses. And I just, it's just one of the little things that I really appreciate, you know? And it's not usually like a mistake or something that you would find like at big box stores where, oh, it wasn't painted correctly or didn't go through the machine properly or things like that. When things are handmade like this, like you can tell like how much love is put into every single item, and not just from my items, but also from other small businesses as well, like I just mentioned, which I am so happy about. Okay, and here we are. It's about midnight, 12:30, and it took about 4 hours and 44 minutes to complete all of these. I cleaned them up with isopropyl alcohol, but my work is not done yet. I also remember I said like in the beginning that I didn't record some parts, so probably like give or take an hour or so. So afterwards, I have to check that all the flowers are on there pretty well, otherwise I'll have to fix them. And then after that, I'll end up sanding each and every one of them, just making sure everything is all good and secure. And that is where I am today. My hands are really sore, specifically my right hand, because I'm right-handed. It's really sore. I'm holding the camera with my left hand, so I can't show a comparison, but it's a bit swollen. I don't know if I mentioned this previously, but my hands started to really struggle last summer when I was making a ton of keychains. And I think making all the keychains is kind of what did it for my hands, all like the repetitive motions with the pliers. I make my keychains differently now, so I don't have to use the pliers as frequently as I do now. I have some videos of how I do it now, but very different from how I did them prior. So anyway, yeah, so my hands definitely need some rest. I was thinking about working on some more, but I don't want to, you know, injure my hands, so I'm just gonna give them a rest. I'm probably going to put some ice on them for now, do some stretches, and then put my brace on. Oh, I think it's in my car, I don't remember, but anyway, so this is where we are right now. So we probably have another hour to 2 hours worth of work for these, and that doesn't include the packaging time. It takes me a pretty good amount of time to pack them, because I have to make the boxes, I wrap them in bubble wrap, I put the crinkle paper and then the honeycomb paper, and then, you know, pack it all up. But I don't think I'm going to include that. But yeah, so this is where we are right now. And I just want to say that if you are working on your items and stuff, please try not to compare yourself to the speed that I work on my items. This took like years to cultivate kind of like my technique and how I do things. I still mess up, and back then this would have taken me about like double or triple the time, and that's okay. But just remember the sacrifice that it comes with, you know, with my hands and things like that. So you just have to remember to give yourself breaks. You don't want to injure your hands further. Just like when you're working out, you know, you're supposed to ease into it, otherwise you'll get injured pretty quickly. Similar things like with working with your hands so meticulously. These are very tiny, very small. You don't want to injure yourself when you're working with this, because you want to keep creating art. So please keep that in mind. Okay, so it's the next morning, and last night we stopped at the 4 hour and 44 minute mark. I was worried that my stopwatch wouldn't save, and it didn't, so I'm thankful that I took a screenshot. But remember, I also created these that I didn't really time too well. So I'm assuming this is probably around 5 hours. So this will probably push us over the 10-hour mark. So it's probably a little bit over 5 actually, because these are like 2 ghosts in one essentially. But anyway, so I still have quite a bit of work that I have to do with these. I still have to sand them, and then I still have to add the flowers in the front and in the back. So that'll definitely push us to over 10 hours. I'd probably say probably more like 15 to 16 hours, probably a little bit more because I take my time when I'm sanding everything. But yeah, so this is where we are. This is what I made in 10 hours so far. I can't wait for the other ghosties to finish so I can take like a proper little video. Okay, so we have to start over for 2 of these ghosties, and that's okay. And the reason is because they cracked. So one cracked on the arm, and then this one cracked on the back. I tried to fix it with clay, but it didn't end up working out. I tried it 3 times, so I'm just going to be starting over, making 2 new bodies. So this is Sculpting Primo. And I just want to say that no matter how much you knead your clay, sometimes cracking will happen. And I run it through my clay. What is it called? It's kind of like a pasta machine, but I put clay through it. And so I put it through there probably like 10, 15 times, I think, and with varying thickness, just to make sure that the clay is thoroughly rolled out. And I also knead it with my hands, try and squeeze out like any bubbles and anything like that. But sometimes this can still happen. And as you can see, I have 8 of these and 19 of those that did not crack. So these were just 2 outliers, and that is okay. And it is okay to start over if you try to fix it and it doesn't work out. And just like that, the ghosties are basically done. I still have to do a few more checks before I pack them up. I always do. But it took a little bit more than 10 to 15 hours. If I'm being honest, it was probably more like 20 hours. And that's because I had to add the flowers, and I also had to sand them. And when I'm sanding these, I do 2 types of grits of sandpaper. So that's why it takes me so long. But anyway, I hope that this video helped you in some kind of way, whether it brought you a little bit of comfort in your day-to-day life or inspired you in any kind of way. But if you have any questions or comments about anything that I talked about, if there's anything that you're curious about, let me know. I would love to answer your questions and chat with you, or maybe talk about it in another video. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And please make sure you hit that subscribe button so you're notified every single time I post a new video.